The rain came down in sheets, turning the Seoul alleyway into a river of neon reflections. Keisha Williams pressed her back against the wet brick wall, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her daughter's stuffed rabbit, the one she'd been carrying in her purse, was now clutched against her chest, soaked through. She shouldn't have been there. She should have been on the main street, catching a taxi back to her hotel after the conference dinner. But she'd taken a wrong turn, and now she was witnessing something she was never meant to see. Two men in dark suits stood over a third man kneeling in the rain. The kneeling man's expensive coat was torn at the shoulder, his silver hair plastered to his skull. Even from 30 feet away, Keisha could see the blood mixing with rainwater at his knees. "You thought you could walk away from us?" one of the standing men said in Korean. Keisha had picked up enough of the language during her week in Seoul to understand the venom in his tone. The silver-haired man didn't respond. He simply stared straight ahead, his jaw set, his hand steady despite the gun pointed at his temple. Keisha's rational mind screamed at her to run. To turn around, find the main street, forget everything she'd seen. She had a daughter waiting for her back in Atlanta. Maya was only 6 years old, staying with Keisha's mother for the week. Maya needed her mom to come home safe. But Keisha's body wouldn't move. She'd been a nurse for 8 years before switching to pharmaceutical sales. She'd seen death. She'd seen violence. And she'd learned something about herself in those emergency room nights. She couldn't look away from someone in need, even when she should. The gunman's finger tightened on the trigger. Keisha moved. She didn't think. If she'd thought, she would have stayed hidden. But her legs were already pushing off the wall, her voice already breaking the rain-soaked silence. "Stop." 3 heads turned toward her. The silver-haired man's eyes widened, dark eyes that held something ancient and dangerous even as he knelt in submission. The gunman's expression shifted from shock to rage in an instant. Time seemed to slow. Keisha saw the gun swing toward her. She saw the muzzle flash bright in the darkness. She felt something punch into her left shoulder with the force of a sledgehammer. Then she was falling, the wet pavement rising up to meet her, and all she could think was, "Maya. I'm sorry, baby. Mommy made a mistake." The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the silver-haired man rising from his knees, his hands moving faster than seemed possible, and the terrible beauty of violence unfolding like a dance in the rain. Welcome to Forbidden Empire, where we bring you the most intense, heart-stopping stories of danger, redemption, and forbidden love. Tonight's story will take you deep into the shadows of Seoul's underworld, where a single act of courage changed 2 lives forever. You've just witnessed the moment everything began, but the real story? It's about to unfold. If you're ready for 2 hours of suspense, action, and a love that defied every rule, then hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's dive into the story of how a black single mother from Atlanta became the most protected and most dangerous woman in Korea's criminal empire. This is A Black Single Mom Took a Bullet for a Stranger, never knowing he was the Korean Mafia boss. Let's begin. 3 days earlier, Keisha Williams had stood in the Atlanta airport saying goodbye to the most important person in her life. "Mommy, do you really have to go?" Maya's small hands gripped Keisha's jacket, her brown eyes swimming with tears she was trying to be brave enough not to shed. Keisha knelt down, ignoring the terminal crowds rushing past them. "Baby girl, I'll be back in 1 week. 7 days. And you know what that means." 7 video calls, Maya recited, but her bottom lip still trembled. "That's right. Every single day we'll talk and you can tell me everything you did with Grandma." Keisha pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of the coconut oil in her carefully braided hair. "And when I get back, Mommy's going to have enough money saved to get us out of that apartment and into a real house. Remember the one we looked at? With the yard?" Maya's eyes brightened just a little. "With the swing set?" "With the swing set." Keisha kissed her forehead. "I love you more than anything in this world, you understand me?" "I love you more than ice cream," Maya whispered back, their special phrase. "Even strawberry ice cream?" Keisha teased. "Even strawberry." Keisha's mother, Diane, placed a weathered hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Go on now. You're going to miss your flight and you didn't work this hard to blow this opportunity." The Seoul Pharmaceutical Conference was the biggest deal of Keisha's career. Her company was launching operations in South Korea, and she'd been chosen, one of only 5 sales reps, to represent them at the international summit. It meant bonuses. It meant promotion opportunities. It meant finally being able to give Maya the stability she deserved. Keisha had gotten pregnant at 19. Maya's father had disappeared before she was born. Keisha had dropped out of nursing school, worked 3 jobs, gone back for her degree, then pivoted to pharmaceutical sales when she realized she could make more money and have a more stable schedule for her daughter. Every decision she'd made for the past 6 years had been about Maya. She wasn't about to stop now. The flight to Seoul had been long, 14 hours of cramped seats and recycled air. But when Keisha stepped out into Incheon International Airport, she felt something shift in her chest. Possibility. This was her chance to prove herself, to show the executives that she could handle international markets, that she was more than just a single mom struggling to make ends meet. The first 2 days of the conference had gone perfectly. Her presentations had been well received. She'd made connections with Korean distributors. She'd even managed to navigate the business dinners with their complex etiquette, bowing at the right depth, accepting business cards with both hands, never pouring her own drink. On the third night, the conference director had taken the international reps to an upscale restaurant in Gangnam. The food had been exquisite, far beyond anything Keisha could have afforded on her own. The conversation had flowed easily, lubricated by soju and the universal language of ambition. Keisha had excused herself early. She wanted to FaceTime with Maya before her daughter's bedtime in Atlanta. The time difference was brutal. 14 hours meant careful coordination, but Keisha had promised. 7 calls. She never broke promises to her daughter. The restaurant manager had offered to call her a taxi, but Keisha had waved him off. Her hotel was only a few blocks away, according to her phone's GPS. She'd wanted to walk, to see more of the city beyond conference rooms and restaurants, to feel like she was actually experiencing Seoul rather than just passing through it. That had been her first mistake. The second had been taking what looked like a shortcut through a narrow alley between 2 buildings. The third had been not running the moment she saw the men and the gun. Pain was the first thing Keisha felt when consciousness returned. A hot, throbbing ache in her left shoulder that pulsed with every heartbeat. She tried to move and gasped as fire shot through her entire upper body. Don't. The voice was male, accented but clear. You'll tear the stitches. Keisha's eyes flew open. She wasn't in a hospital. The room around her was elegant, all dark wood and subtle lighting with traditional Korean art on the walls. She was lying on a low platform bed covered in silk sheets, wearing an unfamiliar cotton nightgown. A man sat in a chair beside the bed. Not just any man, the silver-haired man from the alley. Up close, she could see he was probably in his mid-40s, with sharp, aristocratic features and those same dark eyes that had watched her fall in the rain. He wore fresh clothes now, black slacks and a crisp white shirt, but there was a bandage visible at his collar, and his knuckles were bruised and swollen. Where am I? Keisha's voice came out rough, her throat dry. Somewhere safe. He stood, moving to a side table where he poured water from a glass pitcher. He approached slowly as if she were a wounded animal that might bolt. You need to drink. Keisha tried to sit up, hissed at the pain and found his hand steady on her good shoulder, helping her. He held the glass to her lips and she drank gratefully, her mind racing. The alley, she said when she'd finished. Those men are no longer a problem. Something in his tone made Keisha's skin prickle. She studied his face more carefully. This man had killed those men. She was certain of it. And not just killed them. Done so efficiently enough that he'd been able to get her shot body to medical help without involving the police. You should be in a hospital, he continued, setting the glass aside. The bullet went clean through but you lost a lot of blood. I had a doctor come here, someone discreet. Discreet? Keisha repeated. Her head was swimming, though whether from blood loss or shock or the sheer impossibility of her situation, she couldn't tell. Why couldn't we go to a regular hospital? The man returned to his chair, settling into it with the careful movements of someone managing his own injuries. Because regular hospitals ask questions. They call police. And the police. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. The police cannot help with what happened tonight. What did happen tonight? Who were those men? Who are you? My name is Min-jun Park. He said it simply as if it should mean something to her. When her expression remained blank, something almost like relief flickered across his face. And you are Keisha Williams from Atlanta, Georgia. You're in Seoul for a pharmaceutical conference. You have a daughter named Maya, age 6. You like your coffee with 2 creams and 1 sugar. Your favorite color is purple and you're allergic to shellfish. Keisha's blood ran cold. How do you, my phone? You went through my phone. Your phone, your wallet, your hotel registration, your conference badge. He gestured to a table across the room where her belongings were neatly arranged. I needed to know who you were. Who might come looking for you. Whether you were. He stopped. Whether I was what? A cop. A spy. Keisha tried to laugh, but it came out bitter and scared. I'm a pharmaceutical sales rep with a 6-year-old and a mother who's probably losing her mind right now because I missed our video call. I had someone contact your hotel. You were reported as ill, too much to drink at dinner. They've extended your reservation and sent your regrets to the conference. Your mother received a text from your phone saying you were having technical difficulties but you're fine. You texted my mother? Keisha's voice rose, then cracked as pain lanced through her shoulder. You have no right. I have every right. The steel in his voice made her fall silent. You saved my life. That creates an obligation. And obligations in my world are not taken lightly. Your world, Keisha repeated. She took a shaky breath, trying to think through the fog of pain and fear. Those men wanted to kill you. You killed them instead. You have doctors who make house calls and don't report gunshot wounds. You have people who can hack into hotel systems and send fake texts. She met his eyes. You're a criminal. Yes. The blunt honesty of it was almost worse than if he'd lied. Keisha felt tears prick at her eyes, not from pain, but from the sheer impossibility of what she'd done. She'd thrown away her daughter's mother for a criminal. A stranger. A man who lived in a world where people killed each other in alleys in the rain. I want to go home, she whispered. Soon, Min-jun said. When it's safe. Safe? I'm being held prisoner by a drug dealer? An assassin. Neither. He stood again, this time moving to the window. He pushed aside the curtain, revealing a view of Seoul's nighttime skyline, glittering towers and neon signs stretching into the distance. The men who tried to kill me tonight were from a rival organization. They thought I was vulnerable, away from my security, meeting with someone I trusted who betrayed me. His jaw tightened. They were partially right. But they didn't account for you. What organization? Keisha demanded. But even as she asked, pieces were clicking into place in her mind. The way he'd moved in the alley, practiced lethal. The deference the doctor had shown when tending to her, never once asking how she'd been shot. The sheer wealth evident in this room, this building, the view. Min-jun turned from the window. In the reflected neon light, his face looked like something carved from stone. I am the head of the Baek Dupa, he said quietly. What you would call, the Korean Mafia. The silence that followed Min-jun's revelation stretched like a wire pulled taut. Keisha stared at him, this man, this mafia boss, who looked more like a CEO in his expensive clothes, who'd held a water glass to her lips with surprising gentleness, who'd killed men in an alley with his bare hands. You're lying, she finally said, though she knew he wasn't. I wish I were. Min-jun let the curtain fall closed, returning the room to its intimate darkness. The Baek Dupa is one of the 3 largest organized crime syndicates in Seoul. We control territories in Gangnam, Itaewon, and Hongdae. We have interests in construction, entertainment, finance, and other enterprises. Other enterprises? Keisha repeated numbly. You mean drugs, weapons, human trafficking? No trafficking. Never. His voice turned sharp, almost offended. The Baek Dupa has codes. Lines we don't cross. We don't trade in human misery, no drugs that destroy communities, no exploitation of women or children. We're not saints, Ms. Williams, but we're not monsters either. You kill people. Yes. He met her eyes without flinching. I do. When necessary. When they threaten what I protect. And what's that? Your money? Your power? My people. Min-jun moved back to the chair, sitting with a slight wince that told Keisha his own injuries were more serious than he'd let on. The Baek Dupa isn't just an organization. It's families, hundreds of them. Businesses that can't get legitimate loans because of their backgrounds. Neighborhoods where police protection is a joke. We fill the gaps that society leaves open. And yes, we profit from it. But we also protect it. Keisha wanted to argue, to tell him that was all rationalization, that there was no nobility in crime. But she'd grown up in Atlanta's rougher neighborhoods. She'd seen how the system failed people, how banks wouldn't give loans to good people with bad credit, how police showed up late or not at all in certain zip codes, how sometimes the only protection a struggling business could get came from people who operated outside the law. She didn't agree with it, but she understood it. Those men tonight, she said carefully, the ones who wanted to kill you. What happens now? Their organization will know their attempt failed. They'll know someone intervened. He paused, his expression growing grave. They'll want to know who. The implication hit Keisha like a second bullet. They'll come after me. They would. If they knew who you were. Min-jun leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his eyes intense. Right now you're a ghost. The alley was in a dead zone for security cameras. I'd chosen it specifically for that privacy. The men I killed won't be found, at least not intact enough to tell a story. As far as anyone knows, I survived an ambush through my own skills, and whoever helped me vanished into the night. So I'm safe. But even as she said it, Keisha knew it was a question, not a statement. You're safe if you stay a ghost. If you return to your conference tomorrow, smile at your colleagues, finish your presentations, and fly home to your daughter without anyone connecting you to what happened. He pulled out a phone, not hers, something sleek and expensive, and pulled up a photo. This is the man who betrayed me. Kim Sung-ho. He was my accountant for 15 years. He'll be at your conference tomorrow. Keisha's blood chilled. The photo showed a middle-aged Korean man with wire-rimmed glasses and a pleasant smile. She'd seen him. He'd been at the dinner tonight, sitting 3 tables away, toasting with other attendees. He sold me out to the Chongryong faction, Min-jun continued. Told them where I'd be when I'd be vulnerable. He's their inside man now, feeding them information. And if he sees you, if he recognizes you from the alley? But I wasn't close enough for him to see me clearly. It was dark, raining? Maybe. Maybe not. Can you risk it? Can you risk him mentioning to his new employers that there was an American woman at the conference? A black woman who would have stood out in his memory, and wouldn't it be interesting if she happened to disappear the same night their hit squad did? Keisha's hands were shaking. She pressed her good hand against the silk sheets, trying to steady herself. What are you saying? That I can't go back? That I have to hide? I'm saying you need to be smart. Careful. Min-jun stood, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a business card, plain white with only a phone number embossed in silver. This is my personal line. Not even my lieutenants have it. If anything happens, if you feel unsafe, if Kim Sung-ho so much as looks at you wrong, you call. Immediately. Keisha took the card with trembling fingers. The paper was thick, expensive. Real silver leaf in the embossing. Everything about this man spoke of wealth and power, and she was holding a direct line to him. Why? She asked. Why do all this for me? You don't owe me anything. You took a bullet meant for me. His voice went soft, almost reverent. In my world there is no greater debt. You could have run. You should have run. But you didn't. You risked your life for someone you didn't know, without hesitation, without thought for the cost. That kind of courage. He paused, something unreadable flickering across his face. That kind of courage is rare. And it must be protected. Dawn came too quickly. Keisha woke to find a woman in the room, small, efficient, probably in her 50s, laying out fresh clothes on a chair. Good morning, Ms. Williams, the woman said in accented but clear English. I am Mrs. Cho. I will help you dress. Mr. Park wants you to return to your hotel before the morning conference sessions begin. Keisha's shoulder throbbed as Mrs. Cho helped her into her own cleaned clothes. Someone had laundered everything. Her blouse no longer had blood stains, her slacks were pressed, even her bra had been washed and dried. The efficiency of it was unsettling. The wound, Mrs. Cho said, noticing Keisha's wince. Dr. Yoon left strong painkillers. You take one now, one every 6 hours. And antibiotics, very important. The stitches dissolve on their own in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Keisha accepted the pills and water. I'll be back in Atlanta in 4 days. Dr. Yoon says you should see American doctor when you return. Tell them. Mrs. Cho thought for a moment. Tell them you fell on playground equipment. Metal pole. Went through shoulder cleanly. They will believe this story. Keisha wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it. A whole cover story prepared for her, a life-threatening injury reduced to a playground accident. But laughter would hurt too much. Min-jun was waiting downstairs. The building, Keisha realized in daylight filtering through windows, was some kind of traditional Korean house. A hanok, she'd learned the term at the conference, but modernized with expensive amenities. The courtyard outside held a small garden, meticulously maintained. Your taxi is waiting, Min-jun said. He looked different in the morning light, tired, the bruises on his face more visible, but still carrying himself with that quiet authority. You'll go directly to your hotel. Check in with the concierge. They believe you spent the night in your room, Illinois. Rest for a few hours, then attend the afternoon sessions if you feel capable. And Kim Sung-ho? Avoid him if possible. Be professional if not. Show no recognition, no fear. You're a sales representative from Atlanta who had too much soju and missed a morning of presentations. Nothing more. Keisha nodded slowly. She could do this. She'd spent years playing roles. The confident professional, the capable single mother, the woman who had everything under control even when she didn't. She could play the oblivious conference attendee. The card I gave you, Min-jun continued. Keep it hidden but keep it close. And Ms. Williams? He waited until she met his eyes. I meant what I said. You call if anything feels wrong. A look, a word, a feeling in your gut. I will handle it. The taxi ride back to her hotel felt surreal. Seoul's morning traffic was a river of metal and glass, the city alive with business people rushing to work, street vendors setting up their carts, the organized chaos of millions of lives intersecting. Keisha was part of it and separate from it, a woman with a bullet wound hidden under her blouse, carrying a Mafia boss's private number in her purse. Her hotel room was exactly as she'd left it, or almost. Someone had been there. Her laptop was closed when she knew she'd left it open. Her suitcase zipper was in a slightly different position. Nothing was missing but everything had been examined. Keisha sat on the edge of the bed, her shoulder aching despite the painkillers, and pulled out her phone. 17 missed calls from her mother. 12 texts. Her video call with Maya had been scheduled for 10 hours ago. She dialed, her heart in her throat. Keisha Marie Williams, where have you been? Her mother's voice was sharp with worry and relief. Your text said technical difficulties but 17 hours. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. The hotel Wi-Fi was down and my data plan doesn't work well here and the lies came surprisingly easily. Maybe that should have worried her. Can I talk to Maya? Is she awake? It's past her bedtime, but she refused to sleep until she heard from you. Hold on. There was shuffling, then Maya's voice, thick with drowsiness and relief. Mommy? Keisha's eyes burned with tears. Hey baby girl. I'm so sorry I missed our call. Grandma said you were sick. Are you okay? I'm okay. I had a little accident. I fell down and it hurt my shoulder but I'm fine now. You fell down? Maya sounded more awake now, concerned. Did you cry? Maybe a little, Keisha admitted, thinking of those moments in the alley, the rain and the pain and the terrible certainty that she'd made the worst mistake of her life. But I'm tough, remember? Like you. Like me, Maya agreed. Then quieter, I miss you, Mommy. I miss you more than ice cream. Even strawberry? Even strawberry. They talked for 20 more minutes, about Maya's day at school, the cookies she'd baked with Grandma, the movie they'd watched. Normal things. Safe things. Things that had nothing to do with alleys and bullets and men who killed with their hands. When they hung up, Keisha let herself cry. Not from pain, though her shoulder was screaming. Not from fear, though she was terrified. But from the sheer weight of what she'd done, what she'd risked, and what she still had to risk for 3 more days. She couldn't go home yet. She couldn't run. If she did, if she showed any irregularity in her behavior, it might draw the wrong kind of attention. She had to see this through. She had to survive. The afternoon session was on pharmaceutical distribution models in emerging Asian markets. Keisha sat in the back row, her injured shoulder supported by strategic positioning and enough painkillers to dull the edge without fogging her mind completely. She took notes. She nodded at appropriate moments. She was invisible. Kim Sung-ho was 3 rows ahead. Keisha watched him from behind her conference program, studying this man who'd betrayed Min-jun Park. He looked ordinary, a bureaucrat in a suit, the kind of middle management functionary you'd never look at twice. But he'd sold out his boss to killers. He'd set up an assassination. And if he recognized her, he'd kill her too. The session broke for coffee. Keisha stayed in her seat, pretending to review her notes while the room emptied around her. She was standing ready to slip out the side door when a voice stopped her. Ms. Williams? She turned, forcing her face into a polite smile. Kim Sung-ho stood 3 feet away, holding a cup of coffee, his expression pleasant and completely unreadable. Yes. Her voice came out steady. Thank God for that. Kim Sung-ho. I don't believe we've been formally introduced. He bowed slightly, the gesture automatic. I work with several of the Korean distributors your company is courting. I wanted to introduce myself, perhaps arrange a meeting before you return to the States. Of course. Keisha accepted his business card with both hands, the way she'd been taught. Everything about this exchange was normal, professional. I'd be happy to discuss opportunities. Excellent. His eyes swept over her, and for just a moment, Keisha thought she saw something shift in his expression. Recognition? Suspicion? Then it was gone, replaced by that bland pleasantness. I noticed you weren't at this morning's sessions. I hope you're feeling better? Much better, thank you. Just a bit too much excitement at dinner. She laughed lightly, the sound of a woman embarrassed by her own excess. I'm not used to soju. Ah yes, it can be dangerous for those unaccustomed. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Well, I won't keep you. But please do consider that meeting. I think we could have a very productive conversation. He walked away and Keisha forced herself to count to 30 before moving. Her hands were shaking. Her shoulder was screaming. And that look in Kim Sung-ho's eyes, that brief flash of something, played over and over in her mind. He knew. Or he suspected. Or she was paranoid from pain and fear and the sheer impossibility of her situation. In the bathroom, Keisha locked herself in a stall and pulled out the silver-embossed card. Just holding it made her feel marginally safer, as if Min-jun Park's protection could be transmitted through expensive paper stock. She shouldn't call. It had been nothing, a brief conversation, a business card exchange. Kim Sung-ho hadn't accused her of anything, hadn't threatened her. She was overreacting. But Min-jun's words echoed in her mind. A look, a word, a feeling in your gut. Her gut was screaming. Keisha pulled out her phone and dialed. He answered on the first ring. What happened? Kim Sung-ho approached me. He wants a meeting. She took a breath, trying to organize her thoughts. He asked why I wasn't at the morning sessions. He looked at me like, I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things. You're not. Min-jun's voice was tight, controlled. Where are you now? Hotel. In the bathroom near the conference floor. Go to your room. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except hotel staff you can verify through the peephole. I'm sending someone. Sending someone? No, wait, I can't. If someone comes to my room, people will notice, it'll look suspicious. Keisha. The use of her first name stopped her protests. He knows. Maybe not everything, but enough to be curious. And curious is dangerous. I'm not taking chances with your life. What about the conference? What about? Your life, he repeated, steel in every syllable, is more important than any conference. Go to your room. Now. The line went dead. Keisha made it to her room without incident, but the walk from the elevator felt like miles. Every other guest in the hallway seemed to be watching her. Every door seemed to hide threats. By the time she locked herself inside her room, her heart was racing and her shoulder was throbbing with renewed intensity. She took another painkiller, then positioned herself by the window where she could see the door and the street below. Seoul stretched out beneath her, a city of millions, beautiful and terrifying, where she'd somehow stumbled into a war she didn't understand. 30 minutes later, someone knocked. Keisha approached the door carefully, peering through the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, young, maybe late 20s, dressed in the standard uniform of a hotel housekeeper. She held fresh towels. Housekeeping, the woman called in accented English. Keisha didn't open the door. I didn't request housekeeping. Complimentary service. Manager sent me. I don't need towels. The woman's expression didn't change, but she shifted her weight, angling so the peephole would show her profile. As she did, she touched her ear, a small gesture but deliberate. And Keisha saw it, a communications earpiece, nearly invisible against her skin. Orchid, the woman said quietly. Mr. Park sent me. Orchid. Min-jun had told her that would be the code word, she realized. He'd mentioned it in the taxi that morning, and in her pain-fogged state, she'd almost forgotten. Keisha unlocked the door. The woman slipped inside with practiced efficiency, setting down the towels and immediately moving to check the room. She looked under furniture, behind curtains in the bathroom. When she returned, her expression was grim. Camera, she said, pointing to the smoke detector. Very small. Professional. Keisha's blood ran cold. Someone's been watching me? Probably since last night. They wanted to see if you acted normal, or if you did something that suggested you knew Mr. Park. The woman, her badge said her name was Ji-woo, pulled out a small device and held it up to the smoke detector. There was a soft beep, then silence. Disabled now. But we should assume they saw everything you did in this room. Everything. Keisha thought about her phone call to her mother, to Maya. About the way she'd cried. About how she'd stood at the window for 30 minutes, clearly agitated. They know I'm scared. Or they know you're a woman who got shot, who's in pain, who's trying to hold it together in a foreign country. Ji-woo moved to the window, glancing down at the street. Fear is normal. What matters is whether they think you're a threat. And do they? Kim Sung-ho requested the camera be installed. That means he's curious. But curious isn't certain. Ji-woo turned from the window, her young face serious. Mr. Park wants you moved to a safe house. Tonight. I can't. I have 2 more days of the conference. If I disappear. If you stay, Kim Sung-ho will push harder. He'll manufacture a reason to get you alone. And once he has you. Jiwoo didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Keisha sank onto the edge of the bed, her mind racing. Her career. Her daughter's future. The promotion she'd worked so hard for. All of it would vanish if she ran. But if she stayed. Mr. Park says to tell you something, Jiwoo continued. He says the debt he owes you is not just for saving his life. It's for being the kind of person who would save a stranger's life. That kind of person deserves to go home to her daughter. He will not let you die for his sake. Tears burned Keisha's eyes. She didn't want this. Didn't want to be brave or noble or whatever Min-jun Park thought she was. She just wanted to go home. But home felt very far away. The safe house, she finally said. How would we do it? Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile. We're very good at making people disappear. The safe house wasn't what Keisha expected. She'd imagined something dark and industrial, a warehouse maybe or a basement somewhere. Instead, Jiwoo drove her to a quiet residential neighborhood in Songbukdong, where traditional hammocks nestled among modern homes, and the streets were lined with trees whose fall leaves created a canopy of gold and crimson. The house itself was beautiful, 2 stories of traditional Korean architecture with modern security features hidden in the elegant design. Jiwoo led her through a gate, across a small courtyard with a stone garden, and into a warmly lit interior that smelled of jasmine and wood polish. Min-jun Park was waiting in the main room. He looked different than he had that morning, dressed in traditional Korean clothing now, a simple but elegant hanbok in charcoal gray. The change softened something in his appearance, made him seem less like a crime lord and more like... Keisha didn't let herself finish that thought. Thank you, Jiwoo, Min-jun said, dismissing the younger woman with a slight nod. When they were alone, he turned to Keisha. How is your shoulder? Hurts like hell, but I'll live. She glanced around the room, taking in the low furniture, the art on the walls, the feeling of sanctuary. This is your safe house? One of them. This one is special, very few people know about it. You'll be secure here. He gestured to a doorway. There's a bedroom prepared for you. Everything you need, clothes, toiletries, medication. Mrs. Cho will come in the morning to check your wound. And my conference? Handled. You received an urgent call from home. Your daughter is sick, nothing serious, but you needed to fly back immediately. The conference organizers were very understanding. Your hotel room has been cleared. Your flight is booked for tomorrow evening. Keisha should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt the loss of control keenly, her life being managed by someone else, decisions made for her, her carefully constructed career narrative rewritten by a man who killed people for a living. I didn't ask for this, she said, hearing the tremor in her own voice. I know. I just wanted to help someone. I don't know what I thought. That I could save someone and go back to my normal life. There's no such thing as going back. Min-jun moved to a low table where a tea service was arranged. He began preparing tea with movements that spoke of long practice. Heating the pot, measuring leaves, pouring with precise angles. The moment you stepped into that alley, everything changed. For both of us. Because I saw your face? Because I'm a witness. Because you showed me something I'd forgotten. He poured tea into 2 small cups, the liquid a pale gold in the soft light. I've been the head of the Bake du Pas for 12 years. Before that, I was my father's heir, groomed for this role since I was a child. I've lived in a world where everyone wants something: power, money, protection, revenge. Where loyalty is bought and betrayal is common. Where kindness is weakness and compassion gets you killed. He brought her a cup, placing it carefully in her hands. And then a woman I'd never met threw herself in front of a bullet meant for me. Didn't ask my name, my value, what I could do for her. Just acted. Because it was right. Min-jun sat across from her, cradling his own cup. That kind of purity is rare. And once you've seen it, you can't let it be destroyed by men like Kim Sung-ho. Keisha sipped the tea. It was floral and delicate, nothing like the bitter coffee she usually drank. You talk about purity, but you're not a good man, Mr. Park. You've killed people. You run a criminal organization. My daughter, if she knew I was here drinking tea with a mafia boss, she'd be terrified. Yes, he agreed simply. I'm not a good man. But I'm not evil either. I exist in the space between, doing what I must to protect what's mine, operating by codes most people don't understand. It's not a life I'd choose for you or your daughter. But it's my life. And right now, it's the only thing standing between you and people who would hurt you to get to me. So I'm bait. No. You're someone I'm protecting. He set down his cup, his eyes holding hers. There's a difference. That night, Keisha couldn't sleep. Her shoulder ached despite the medication, and her mind wouldn't stop spinning. She lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at shadows on the ceiling and thought about Maya. About the life she'd built so carefully, brick by brick, every decision calculated to give her daughter stability and safety. Now that life felt like it was built on sand and the tide was coming in. Around 2 in the morning, she gave up on sleep and wrapped herself in the robe Mrs. Cho had left, padding softly into the main room. To her surprise, Min-jun was there, sitting by the window that overlooked the courtyard garden. Moonlight painted him in silver and shadow. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. He turned, unsurprised by her presence. "Old habit. I sleep light, wake often. The price of living as I do." Keisha settled into a chair near him, keeping a careful distance. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did Kim Sung-ho betray you? 15 years of loyalty and then, what changed?" Min-jun was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low, reflective. "His daughter. She was killed 3 months ago, caught in crossfire during a territorial dispute with the Chongryong faction. She was 19, studying medicine. She wanted to be a doctor, help people." Keisha's breath caught. "Oh God. The bullet wasn't meant for her. The shooter was aiming for one of my lieutenants. But bullets don't care about intentions. She died and Kim Sung-ho." Min-jun's jaw tightened. "He blamed me. And he was right to. She was in that place because one of my men was there. She died because of this life, this world I control. So he wanted revenge. He wanted justice. In his eyes, I'm no better than the men who pulled the trigger. I'm the system that allows such things to happen. And maybe he's right about that too." Keisha studied his profile, the strong lines of his face, the burden visible in the set of his shoulders. "You feel guilty. I feel responsible. There's a difference." He turned to face her fully. "I knew the risks when I took this position. I knew people would die, some who deserved it, some who didn't. I made peace with that. But Kim Sung-ho's daughter. She reminded me that we don't just affect the people we choose to. We destroy innocent lives in the crossfire. People like you. Like her. Like your daughter, if something were to happen to you." The weight of that hung between them. Keisha thought about Maya, her bright smile, her fearless spirit, the way she still believed her mother could fix anything. What would happen to that little girl if Keisha didn't make it home? "I need to know something," Keisha said. "Be honest with me. What are my chances? Of getting home safely, I mean." Min-jun didn't look away. "Kim Sung-ho is smart, but he's also emotional right now. Grief makes people reckless. He'll push too hard, reveal himself. My people are already watching him. Within 48 hours we'll know if he's identified you as a genuine threat or if he's just cautious. And if he has identified me? Then I deal with him before he can act." "Deal with him? You mean kill him?" "Yes." The baldness of it should have horrified her. Instead, Keisha felt a strange numbness. She was past the point of moral outrage. She was in survival mode now, and Min-jun Park was the only thing keeping her alive. "Tell me about your daughter," Min-jun said, changing the subject with surprising gentleness. "Maya. What's she like?" Keisha found herself smiling despite everything. "She's fierce. Stubborn. Brilliant. She wants to be an astronaut one day, not an astronaut who just goes to space but one who discovers new planets. She's 6 years old and already knows more about the solar system than I ever learned. Like her mother. Brave, determined. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." Min-jun's voice softened. "You act despite fear every day, I think. Single mother, building a career, protecting your daughter from a world that isn't always kind. That's courage." Keisha felt tears prick her eyes. "I just want to go home to her." "You will." Min-jun stood, moving to a cabinet in the corner. He pulled out a laptop, opened it and typed quickly. Then he turned it toward her. "But for now you can talk to her. I had a secure connection established. Untraceable." On the screen, a video call window opened. After a moment, Keisha's mother's face appeared, Maya peering over her shoulder. "Mommy?" Maya's voice was tinny through the speakers, but it filled Keisha's heart. "Grandma said you might call. Are you still sick?" "A little better, baby girl." Keisha wiped at her eyes, trying to keep her voice steady. "I just wanted to hear your voice before bed." They talked for 20 minutes. About school, about the book Maya was reading, about whether Mars or Jupiter would be better to visit first. Normal things. Beautiful things. Things that reminded Keisha why she needed to survive this. When they hung up, she sat staring at the blank screen, her throat tight. "Thank you," she whispered. Min-jun had moved back to the window, giving her privacy. She has your spirit. She has my everything. She's my reason. Then we'll make sure you get back to her. Whatever it takes. Morning brought Mrs. Cho and fresh bandages, a breakfast of rice porridge and side dishes that Keisha barely tasted, and news from Ji-woo that made her blood run cold. Kim Sung-ho has been asking questions, the younger woman reported, her face grim. He contacted the hotel, claiming to have urgent business information for Ms. Williams. When they told him you'd checked out early due to family emergency, he asked for your forwarding information. Did they give it to him? Keisha's voice was sharper than she intended. No. Hotel policy. But he's persistent. He's also been making inquiries with the conference organizers, the airline, even the American embassy. Ji-woo exchanged a look with Min-jun. He's not just curious anymore. He's hunting. Then we accelerate the timeline, Min-jun said. He'd been standing by the courtyard window but now he turned, his face set in hard lines. Keisha flies out tonight instead of tomorrow. We use a different airport, Gimpo instead of Incheon. Different airline, different route. And we make sure Kim Sung-ho is distracted. Distracted how? Keisha asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. Leave that to me. The rest of the day passed in a strange suspension of time. Keisha tried to rest, but sleep was impossible. Instead, she found herself wandering the safe house, examining the art on the walls, the books on the shelves, many in Korean but some in English. She found a worn copy of Toni Morrison's Beloved, and nearly laughed at the surreality of finding American literature in a Korean Mafia safe house. It was my wife's. Keisha spun to find Min-jun in the doorway. She hadn't heard him approach. Your wife. She died 8 years ago. Cancer. He moved into the room, his eyes on the book in Keisha's hands. She was a literature professor. She loved American novels, Morrison, Baldwin, Ellison. She said they taught her more about human nature than any philosophy text. I'm sorry. Keisha set the book down carefully. I didn't know you'd been married. Not many people do. It's not the kind of information that's useful in my world, knowing who I loved, who I've lost. It creates vulnerability. He picked up the book, running his fingers over the worn cover. But she was real. Our life together was real. Before the cancer, we talked about leaving, going somewhere quiet, somewhere I could be just a man, not a boss. But we ran out of time. Keisha saw the pain in his eyes, carefully controlled but present. This man who killed without hesitation, who commanded an empire of violence, had loved someone enough to dream of leaving it all behind. You must miss her. Every day. But missing her doesn't change anything. She's gone and I'm still here, doing the work she hated, protecting the people I'm responsible for. He set the book down. Sometimes I wonder what she'd think of me now. If she'd be proud or disappointed. She'd probably think you were a complicated man trying to do right in an impossible situation. Min-jun's lips quirked in what might have been the beginning of a smile. Is that what you think? I think you're dangerous and honorable and completely outside my experience. I think you've killed people but you're also saving my life. I think... She stopped, unsure how to articulate the complicated tangle of fear and gratitude and something else she didn't want to name. You think I'm a monster who occasionally does good things or a good man who occasionally does monstrous things? Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe I'm too tired and scared to figure it out. This time he did smile, small, sad, understanding. You're honest? I appreciate that. Most people in my life tell me what they think I want to hear. You just tell me truth. Before Keisha could respond, Ji-woo appeared in the doorway. Sir. We have movement. Kim Sung-ho just left his apartment with 3 men. They're armed. Min-jun's entire demeanor changed. The moment of vulnerability vanishing behind a mask of command. Do we know their destination? They're headed toward Gangnam. Your territory. He's making a move. Min-jun turned to Keisha. Get your things. Ji-woo will take you to Gimpo now, ahead of schedule. Your flight leaves in 4 hours. What about you? I'm going to give Kim Sung-ho what he wants, a confrontation. But on my terms, not his. Keisha grabbed his arm without thinking. You're going to kill him. I'm going to end this. So you can go home. So you can be safe. He covered her hand with his, and Keisha felt the warmth of his skin, the calluses that spoke of violence and labor. That was always how this was going to end. From the moment he betrayed me, from the moment he put you in danger, his death became inevitable. Don't? She didn't know why she was protesting. Kim Sung-ho wanted her dead. He'd set up cameras, asked questions, hunted her like prey. She should want him gone. But something in Min-jun's eyes, a weariness, a resignation, made her grip his arm tighter. Don't add another death to your conscience because of me. This isn't about conscience. It's about survival. Is her yours? And I choose yours. He gently extracted his arm from her grip. Jiwoo. Get her to the airport. Now. Jiwoo drove like she was running from the devil himself, weaving through Seoul's evening traffic with precision that should have been terrifying but instead felt oddly reassuring. In the back seat, Keisha clutched her small bag of belongings and tried not to think about what Min-jun was about to do. Tried not to think about the fact that a man was going to die because she'd made a split-second decision in an alley 3 days ago. He'll be fine, Jiwoo said as if reading her thoughts. Mr. Park is the best. He survived 20 assassination attempts, 3 coups within the organization, and a war with the Chongryong that lasted 2 years. Kim Sung-ho is one man with grief and rage. Mr. Park is a professional. That's supposed to make me feel better? Yes. Jiwoo glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Because it means you get to go home. You get to see your daughter. You get to have a life. That's what Mr. Park is giving you, a life. And all it costs is the death of a man who would have killed you without hesitation. Keisha knew she was right. Knew that in this world, Min-jun's world, mercy was weakness and hesitation meant death. But that didn't make it easier to accept. They were 20 minutes from the airport when Jiwoo's phone rang. She answered in rapid Korean, her expression growing tight. When she hung up, she met Keisha's eyes in the mirror. Change of plans. Kim Sung-ho wasn't headed to Gangnam. He was headed to Gimpo. He knew about your flight. Keisha's heart stopped. How? Someone in the organization must have told him. A mole we didn't know about. Jiwoo was already changing lanes, taking an exit that led away from the airport. We're going to Incheon instead. Different flight leaves in 2 hours. We have a private security team already there. But if he has information from inside your organization, then nowhere is completely safe, and we hope Mr. Park finds him before he finds you. The drive to Incheon Airport took 45 minutes through suburbs and industrial zones. By the time they pulled up to the departures terminal, Keisha's nerves were scraped raw. Jiwoo parked, popped the trunk and handed Keisha a new passport. What's this? Emergency documents. Different name, Sarah Johnson, pharmaceutical consultant. Everything is legitimate, just borrowed from someone who owes Mr. Park a favor. You use this to check in, go through security and board. Once you're in the air, you're beyond Kim Sung-ho's reach. Keisha stared at the passport photo. It was her face, but the name was wrong, the life was wrong, everything was wrong. She'd become someone else entirely. Jiwoo. Go. The younger woman's voice was kind but firm. Mr. Park gave his word you'd get home. I'm keeping that promise. Keisha took the passport, her carry-on bag, and stepped out into the bright lights of the airport terminal. She was walking toward the doors when she heard it, a sharp crack that might have been a car backfiring, except Jiwoo's trained reflexes were already pulling her down, shielding her body with her own. More cracks. Gunfire. People started screaming. The orderly flow of travelers dissolved into chaos. People running, dropping to the ground, security personnel shouting. Keisha caught a glimpse of a man with a gun 20 yards away, scanning the crowd. Not just any man. Kim Sung-ho. And he was looking directly at her. Time fractured into moments of crystal clarity punctuated by adrenaline-fueled panic. Jiwoo yanked Keisha behind a concrete pillar as bullets chipped the ground where they'd been standing. Around them, airport chaos erupted. Luggage abandoned, people diving for cover, security alarms wailing like electronic banshees. Run. Jiwoo shoved Keisha toward the terminal entrance. Get inside. Lose yourself in the crowd. What about you? I'm going to slow him down. Go. Keisha ran. Her shoulders screamed with every movement, the stitches pulling, fresh blood seeping through her bandages. But terror was a powerful anesthetic. She sprinted through the automatic doors into the terminal's bright fluorescent maze, her mind racing almost as fast as her feet. Kim Sung-ho had found her. Despite the precautions, the new airport, the false documents, he'd found her. Which meant he had resources she couldn't imagine, information she couldn't track. Which meant nowhere was safe. Behind her, she heard more gunshots. Jiwoo returning fire. Security responding. The modern airport transforming into a war zone in seconds. Keisha ducked into a women's restroom, her hands shaking so badly she could barely lock the stall door. She pulled out her phone, and then realized she had no one to call. The police were the last people who could help in a mafia conflict. Her mother would panic. The American embassy couldn't respond fast enough. That left one number. Keisha pulled out the silver embossed card, now crumpled and stained, and dialed with trembling fingers. Min-jun answered before the first ring finished. Where are you? Incheon Airport. Kim Sung-ho is here. He's shooting. Ji-woo tried to stop him. I don't know if she's... Keisha's voice broke. Keisha. Listen to me. Min-jun's voice cut through her panic like a knife. I'm 15 minutes away. Don't try to run, don't try to leave. Just hide and stay on the line with me. He found me. Even with the new airport, the new name, he found me. I know. And I'm going to end it. But I need you alive for 15 more minutes. Can you do that? Keisha pressed her forehead against the cold stall wall. She could hear sirens now, security lockdown protocols kicking in. The airport was being sealed. Which meant she was trapped, but so was Kim Sung-ho. I'm in the women's restroom, Terminal 2, near Gate 23. Stay there. I'm coming. The line stayed open. Keisha could hear Min-jun barking orders to someone, coordinates, deployment strategies, words in Korean she didn't understand but whose urgency she felt in her bones. Footsteps entered the bathroom. Heavy. Mel. Keisha stopped breathing. I know you're here, Ms. Williams. Kim Sung-ho's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. The American woman. The one who saved Min-jun Park in the alley. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? I've been watching surveillance, tracking movements, connecting dots. Keisha saw his feet pause outside her stall, expensive dress shoes, now splattered with what might have been blood. My daughter was 19 years old, Kim continued. She wanted to be a doctor. To save lives. And she died because of Min-jun Park's world. Because of the violence he perpetuates. And now you saved him. Gave him more time to destroy more families. So you'll understand why I can't let you leave. The stall door exploded inward, kicked off its hinges with brutal force. Keisha had already moved, not away but forward, under his guard, using every ounce of strength to drive her shoulder into his midsection. Pain exploded through her wound, but she felt him stumble, heard his grunt of surprise. She'd learned something in 8 years as an emergency room nurse. Surprise was sometimes the only weapon available. Kim recovered quickly but not quickly enough. Keisha was already running, bursting out of the bathroom, back into the terminal where security was now everywhere. Police with rifles, tactical teams, the full response to an active shooter. He's in there, she screamed, pointing. The shooter's in the bathroom. Officers rushed past her. Keisha kept running, her vision starting to blur, her shoulder now genuinely bleeding, the pain threatening to pull her under. She made it to a service corridor, the kind airport employees used, marked with "Authorized Personnel Only" signs. She stumbled through the door, found herself in a maze of concrete and industrial lighting, and finally collapsed against a wall, her legs giving out. On her phone, Min-jun's voice. Keisha? Keisha, talk to me. Service corridor, she gasped. Terminal 2. I can't keep running. You don't have to. I see you. Keisha looked up. Min-jun Park stood at the end of the corridor, flanked by 4 men in dark suits. He moved toward her with swift purpose, his face a mask of controlled rage. When he reached her, he dropped to one knee, his hands gentle as they assessed her shoulder. You're bleeding. I'm alive. She managed a weak smile. 15 minutes. I made it. You did better than that. You fought back. Something fierce and proud flashed in his eyes. Kim Sung-ho. Trapped in the terminal. Police have him surrounded. Then it's finished. Min-jun stood, lifting her easily despite her weight. We're getting you out of here. My people have a medical team waiting. I can't miss my flight. Keisha. He looked down at her and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes. You almost died. Again. Because of me, because of my world. I'm not letting you out of my sight until you're on American soil. And even then. He stopped, seeming to struggle with something. Even then, I won't stop protecting you. Time fractured into moments of crystal clarity punctuated by adrenaline-fueled panic. Ji-woo yanked Keisha behind a concrete pillar as bullets chipped the ground where they'd been standing. Around them, airport chaos erupted. Luggage abandoned, people diving for cover, security alarms wailing like electronic banshees. Run. Ji-woo shoved Keisha toward the terminal entrance. Get inside. Lose yourself in the crowd. What about you? I'm going to slow him down. Go. Keisha ran. Her shoulder screamed with every movement, the stitches pulling, fresh blood seeping through her bandages. But terror was a powerful anesthetic. She sprinted through the automatic doors into the terminal's bright fluorescent maze, her mind racing almost as fast as her feet. Kim Sung-ho had found her. Despite the precautions, the new airport, the false documents, he'd found her. which meant he had resources she couldn't imagine, information she couldn't track, which meant nowhere was safe. Behind her she heard more gunshots. Jiwoo returning fire. Security responding. The modern airport transforming into a war zone in seconds. Keisha ducked into a women's restroom, her hands shaking so badly she could barely lock the stall door. She pulled out her phone, and then realized she had no one to call. The police were the last people who could help in a mafia conflict. Her mother would panic. The American embassy couldn't respond fast enough. That left one number. Keisha pulled out the silver-embossed card, now crumpled and stained, and dialed with trembling fingers. Min-jun answered before the first ring finished. "Where are you?" "Incheon Airport. Kim Sung-ho is here." "He's shooting." Jiwoo tried to stop him. "I don't know if she's—" Keisha's voice broke. "Keisha, listen to me." Min-jun's voice cut through her panic like a knife. "I'm 15 minutes away. Don't try to run, don't try to leave. Just hide and stay on the line with me." "He found me. Even with the new airport, the new name, he found me." "I know. And I'm going to end it. But I need you alive for 15 more minutes. Can you do that?" Keisha pressed her forehead against the cold stall wall. She could hear sirens now, security lockdown protocols kicking in. The airport was being sealed. Which meant she was trapped, but so was Kim Sung-ho. "I'm in the women's restroom, Terminal 2, near Gate 23. Stay there. I'm coming." The line stayed open. Keisha could hear Min-jun barking orders to someone, coordinates, deployment strategies, words in Korean she didn't understand but whose urgency she felt in her bones. Footsteps entered the bathroom. Heavy. Mel. Keisha stopped breathing. "I know you're here, Ms. Williams." Kim Sung-ho's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. "The American woman. The one who saved Min-jun Park in the alley. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? I've been watching surveillance, tracking movements, connecting dots." Keisha saw his feet pause outside her stall, expensive dress shoes, now splattered with what might have been blood. "My daughter was 19 years old," Kim continued. "She wanted to be a doctor. To save lives. And she died because of Min-jun Park's world. Because of the violence he perpetuates. And now you saved him. Gave him more time to destroy more families. So you'll understand why I can't let you leave." The stall door exploded inward, kicked off its hinges with brutal force. Keisha had already moved, not away but forward, under his guard, using every ounce of strength to drive her shoulder into his midsection. Pain exploded through her wound, but she felt him stumble, heard his grunt of surprise. She'd learned something in 8 years as an emergency room nurse. Surprise was sometimes the only weapon available. Kim recovered quickly but not quickly enough. Keisha was already running, bursting out of the bathroom, back into the terminal where security was now everywhere. Police with rifles, tactical teams, the full response to an active shooter. "He's in there," she screamed, pointing. "The shooter's in the bathroom." Officers rushed past her. Keisha kept running, her vision starting to blur, her shoulder now genuinely bleeding, the pain threatening to pull her under. She made it to a service corridor, the kind airport employees used, marked with "authorized personnel only" signs. She stumbled through the door, found herself in a maze of concrete and industrial lighting, and finally collapsed against a wall, her legs giving out. On her phone, Min-jun's voice. "Keisha? Keisha, talk to me." "Service corridor," she gasped. "Terminal 2. I can't keep running." "You don't have to. I see you." Keisha looked up. Min-jun Park stood at the end of the corridor, flanked by 4 men in dark suits. He moved toward her with swift purpose, his face a mask of controlled rage. When he reached her, he dropped to one knee, his hands gentle as they assessed her shoulder. "You're bleeding." "I'm alive." She managed a weak smile. 15 minutes. I made it. You did better than that. You fought back." Something fierce and proud flashed in his eyes. Kim Sung-ho. Trapped in the terminal. Police have him surrounded. Then it's finished. Min-jun stood, lifting her easily despite her weight. "We're getting you out of here. My people have a medical team waiting. I can't miss my flight." "Keisha." He looked down at her and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes. "You almost died. Again. Because of me, because of my world. I'm not letting you out of my sight until you're on American soil. And even then." He stopped, seeming to struggle with something. "Even then, I won't stop protecting you." The private medical flight took off at dawn. Keisha watched Seoul shrink beneath her, the city that had almost killed her, that had changed her, that held a man she was starting to understand she couldn't simply walk away from. The flight crew was professional and discreet. They checked her vitals, adjusted her pain medication, brought her food she barely touched. And through it all, Keisha thought about the impossible situation she'd talked herself into. She couldn't tell her mother. Diane would lose her mind if she knew her daughter was involved, even tangentially, with organized crime. She couldn't tell Maya. 6-year-olds didn't need to know about mafia bosses and bullet wounds. She couldn't even really explain it to herself. But she had his number. And she'd promised to call. Somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, Keisha pulled out her phone and typed a message to the silver embossed number. "I'm thinking about what you said. About being just a man. I'm not sure that's possible for you. But maybe we can figure out what's possible together." His response came quickly despite the time difference. "I've done impossible things before. But never one I wanted this much." Keisha smiled despite herself. Then she typed, "I have one rule. Maya comes first. Always. If being part of your world, even at a distance, puts her at risk, I walk away. No matter what." "Agreed. Your daughter's safety is non-negotiable. I have children in my organization, nephews, the children of my people. I understand what it means to protect the next generation." "Do you have kids of your own?" There was a longer pause before his answer. "No. My wife and I wanted them. But we ran out of time. Maybe that's part of why I understand how precious your daughter is. She's your everything. As she should be." Keisha felt her throat tighten. This man, this dangerous, complicated man, understood. Not just intellectually but deeply. He knew what it meant to love someone more than your own life. "When I'm healed," she typed, "when things are settled, maybe you could visit Atlanta. See my world instead of me always being in yours. I like that. Though I should warn you, I'm not subtle. My security detail tends to attract attention. Then come alone. Be just a man visiting a woman who's trying to understand him. For you I'll try." The exchange left Keisha feeling lighter somehow. Still terrified, still uncertain, but less alone. She'd stepped into Min-jun Park's world, taken a bullet for him, survived an assassination attempt. She'd earned the right to explore whatever connection existed between them. Even if it was the most complicated thing she'd ever attempted. The plane landed in Atlanta 14 hours after takeoff. Keisha was exhausted, in pain, and emotionally raw. But when she stepped into the private terminal and saw her mother and Maya waiting, everything else fell away. "Mommy?" Maya launched herself forward, and Keisha caught her with her good arm, tears streaming down her face. "Hey baby girl. I missed you so much. Grandma said you fell and hurt your shoulder." Maya pulled back to examine her mother's bandaged arm with serious concern. "Does it hurt?" "A little. But I'm okay. I'm home now and that's what matters." Diane Williams wrapped both of them in a hug, her own eyes wet. "Thank God. When your company called about the early flight, the medical transport, I was so worried." "I'm fine, Mama. It was a rougher trip than I expected." "Well, you're home now. And you're taking time off to recover. Your supervisor already approved 2 weeks medical leave." Keisha blinked. "He did. Called yesterday. Said the company takes employee health seriously, and you're too valuable to rush back to work injured." Diane gave her a knowing look. "You must have made quite an impression over there." Keisha thought about Min-jun's resources, his reach. He'd arranged this too, made sure she'd have time to heal, to be with her daughter, to process everything that had happened. Even from across an ocean he was keeping his promises. The first week home was about healing, physically and emotionally. Keisha's shoulder mended slowly, the pain fading from agonizing to manageable. She attended Maya's school events, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and tried to rebuild the normal rhythms of her life. But normal felt different now. She found herself scanning crowds for threats. Checking locks twice. Waking in the night with her heart racing, remembering rain and gunfire and the terrible moment when Kim Sung-ho kicked down that bathroom stall door. On the 8th day she noticed the man at the coffee shop near her apartment. He was reading a newspaper, seemingly oblivious, but he'd been there yesterday too. And the day before that. One of Min-jun's people. Watching. Protecting. Keisha felt a strange mixture of comfort and claustrophobia. She was safe, but she was also under surveillance. The invisible cage Min-jun had promised. That night, after Maya was asleep, Keisha called the silver embossed number. "How do you know when I need to talk?" she asked when Min-jun answered. "Because I need to talk to you too." His voice was warm, familiar despite the distance. "How's your shoulder?" "Better." Maya drew pictures on my bandages, flowers and stars. She says they'll help me heal faster. She sounds wise. She's 6. She thinks stickers fix everything. Keisha paused. I saw one of your people. At the coffee shop. That would be Marcus. Former army, 3 tours in Afghanistan. Very good at being invisible until needed. Is his presence bothering you? Yes. And no. It's just, this is my life now, isn't it? Being watched. Never being truly alone. Only if you want it to be. Min-jun's tone grew serious. I meant what I said. You can walk away. I'll still protect you and Maya, but from a greater distance. No surveillance, no presence. Just emergency protocols in case something happens. And if I don't walk away? If I want to see you again? Then you'll need to accept that protection is permanent. Not as a cage but as a shield. Marcus and his colleagues aren't there to control your life. They're there to make sure you have a life to live. Keisha moved to her apartment window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. When are you coming to visit? When you're ready. When your shoulder is healed. When you've had time to decide if this is really what you want. He paused. I won't rush you, Keisha. What we have, whatever it is, deserves time to grow properly. What if Maya asks about you? What do I say? Tell her I'm a friend. Someone you met in Seoul who helped you when you were hurt. It's true after all. Just, incomplete. Min-jun. Keisha pressed her forehead against the cool glass. I think about you. More than I should. More than is probably smart. I think about you constantly. It's distracting. My lieutenants are starting to notice their boss is distracted. Is that dangerous? For you to be distracted? Normally, yes. But right now the Baek Dupa is stable. Kim Sung-ho's betrayal was contained. The Chongryong faction backed down after what happened at the airport. And he took a breath. I'm realizing that maybe there's more to life than constant vigilance. That maybe my wife was right to want me to walk away, to find something real beyond the empire. You can't walk away. You said so yourself. You're responsible for too many people. No. But I can carve out space for something personal. Something just for me. If you'll let me. Keisha felt her heart race. Come at the end of the month. I'll be healed by then. And we can see. See what? If a pharmaceutical sales rep from Atlanta and a Korean Mafia boss can figure out how to have dinner without the world ending. Min-jun laughed, a genuine warm sound she'd never heard from him before. I'll bring flowers. And Marcus will check the restaurant for threats. Romantic. It's the best I can offer. Romance complicated by necessary precautions. I'll take it. Min-jun Park arrived in Atlanta on a Friday evening in October. Keisha picked him up at his hotel, the Ritz-Carlton downtown, because of course he'd stay nowhere less than 5-star. She'd left Maya with her mother, claiming she had a business dinner with a potential client. Not entirely a lie. Min-jun was potential something even if she couldn't quite name what. He was waiting in the lobby when she arrived, dressed in civilian clothes, dark jeans, a black button-down, a leather jacket that somehow made him look both dangerous and approachable. Without his Seoul context, without the weight of his empire visible on his shoulders, he looked younger. Almost ordinary. Until he smiled and she saw the sharp intelligence in his eyes, the predatory grace in how he moved. Keisha. He took her hands, studied her shoulder with the careful attention of someone who'd memorized the location of every one of her injuries. You look well. So do you? Less bruised. The benefits of time and excellent medical care. He glanced around the lobby, a casual sweep that she recognized now as professional threat assessment. Where are we going? Surprise. She'd planned this carefully. But first, are Marcus and his friends nearby? 2 in the lobby, 3 outside, 1 in a car following us. Standard protocols for when I'm in unfamiliar territory. Can they give us an hour? Just 1 hour of being 2 people on a date. Min-jun hesitated, then pulled out his phone and sent a quick text. Done. They'll maintain perimeter security but stay back. Though Keisha, you understand that an hour is all I can promise? After that, you're a target again. I know. She squeezed his hands. Then let's not waste the hour. She drove him to the Beltline, Atlanta's converted railway trail that wound through neighborhoods, past art installations and food trucks and clusters of locals enjoying the evening. They walked hand in hand like any couple, and for that precious hour they were. Tell me about Maya, Min-jun said as they strolled past a mural of Atlanta's skyline in brilliant sunset colors. She's everything. Smart, curious, stubborn as hell. She wants to be an astronaut, and I believe she will be. She has this way of approaching problems like they're puzzles to solve rather than obstacles. She got that from me. And her father? Gone. He didn't want to be a parent. I stopped trying to make him care. Keisha felt no bitterness saying it anymore, just fact. For a long time I thought that made us broken. A family that didn't fit the mold. But we're not broken. We're just different. Different can be stronger, Min-jun said quietly. My father raised me to take over the Baek Dupa. Every day of my childhood was training, martial arts, strategy, languages, the codes and customs of our world. I never got to choose a different path. But you? You built your path from nothing. That takes a strength my father never had to develop. They found a food truck selling Korean barbecue, and the irony made them both laugh. Min-jun ordered in Korean, charming the elderly woman running the truck with his Seoul accent and obvious delight at finding authentic food in Atlanta. They ate sitting on a bench overlooking the trail, watching joggers and cyclists pass, the evening air warm with the last gasp of summer. This is nice, Min-jun said, and something in his voice made Keisha turn to look at him. He was staring at the food in his hands like it was a miracle. Simple. Normal. I can't remember the last time I did something this normal. You run an empire. Normal probably isn't on your schedule. No. But maybe it should be. He set down his food, turning to face her fully. Keisha, I need to tell you something. About why I'm really here. Her heart sank. You're ending this. Whatever this is. No. The opposite. He took her hand. I'm 46 years old. I've spent 12 years as the head of the Baek Dupa, 20 years before that preparing for the role. I've done things I'm proud of and things that haunt me. I've built an empire that employs thousands, protects neighborhoods, maintains order and chaos. And I've been alone the entire time. You had your wife. I did. And she was everything. But even with her, I was always the boss first, the man second. The empire always came first. Until she was dying, and then suddenly none of it mattered. The territories, the money, the power, all of it was meaningless compared to one more day with her. Keisha felt tears prick her eyes. I swore after she died that I wouldn't let anything distract me again, Min-jun continued. That the empire was my only focus. And then you stepped into that alley. You threw yourself in front of a bullet for a stranger. And something in me broke open. Or maybe healed. I'm not sure which. Min-jun. Let me finish. He squeezed her hand. I can't leave the Baek Dupa. I can't walk away from my responsibilities. But I can make space in my life for something personal. Someone personal. If you'll have me. With all my complications, all my dangers, all my impossibilities. Keisha studied his face, the sharp features, the scars she was starting to catalog, the eyes that held worlds of experience she'd never fully understand. This man who killed people. Who ran a criminal empire. Who'd crossed an ocean just to eat Korean barbecue on a bench with her. I have conditions, she said. Name them. Maya meets you as a friend. Just a friend. Until we're sure this is real and lasting. I won't introduce a man into her life who might disappear. Agreed. Your security can protect us, but they stay invisible. I don't want Maya growing up thinking being watched is normal. Done. And if this gets too dangerous, if your world threatens my daughter in any way, I walk. No matter how I feel about you. She comes first. Always. As she should. Min-jun brought her hand to his lips. Anything else? Yeah. You have to tell me the truth. About everything. What you do, who you are, the risks involved. No sugarcoating, no protection through ignorance. If I'm in this, I'm in it knowing exactly what I'm choosing. That's a hard truth to bear. I was an emergency room nurse before I went into pharmaceutical sales. I've seen the worst of humanity. I can handle hard truths. Min-jun was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm. I've killed 17 people. Directly by my own hand. 3 were in self-defense. The others were executions. People who betrayed the organization, who hurt our people, who crossed lines we don't allow crossed. I don't enjoy it. But I don't lose sleep over it either. They made choices, I responded. Keisha's breath caught. Hearing him say it so baldly was different from knowing it abstractly. The Baek Dupa controls illegal gambling, protection services, money lending to people who can't get legitimate loans. We also have legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction companies, entertainment venues. The line between legal and illegal is blurry, and we walk it deliberately. Do you hurt innocent people? Not intentionally. But in conflicts there's collateral damage. Kim Sung-ho's daughter wasn't the first innocent to die because of our world. She won't be the last. And I carry that weight every day. What do you want from me? Really? I want to know what it's like to be with someone who sees all of me, the good and the terrible, and chooses me anyway. My wife never knew the worst of what I did. I protected her from it. But you've seen me kill. You've been shot because of me. You know exactly who I am. And you're still here. I'm terrified, Keisha admitted. Of your world, of what could happen to Maya, of what it means to care about someone who lives like you do. But I'm drawn to you. Your strength, your honor, the way you protect what's yours. And maybe I'm crazy, but I think we could build something real. Despite everything. Min-jun pulled her closer until their foreheads touched. Then let's try. Slowly. Carefully. But really, Keisha agreed. He kissed her then, gentle at first, then deeper, and Keisha felt something in her chest crack open. Not breaking, but opening. Making space for this impossible man and his impossible world. When they pulled apart, she was crying. So was he. Your hour's up, she said with a shaky laugh. Then let's walk back. Together. 2 weeks later, Keisha invited Min-jun to her apartment for lunch. Casual, low stakes, the kind of introduction where Maya could meet him without pressure or expectations. She told her daughter the truth, or a version of it. Mommy met a friend in Korea. He helped me when I fell and hurt my shoulder. He's visiting Atlanta, and I thought it would be nice if we all had lunch together. Maya had been skeptical. Is he your boyfriend? No, baby. Just a friend. But maybe someone who could become a good friend to both of us if we give him a chance. Min-jun arrived bearing gifts, a detailed model of the solar system for Maya. I heard you want to be an astronaut. Korean sweets for Diane. I hope these meet your standards. And flowers for Keisha, because I'm trying to be normal and normal men bring flowers. Maya examined him with the serious attention of a 6-year-old evaluator. You're from Korea? I am. Seoul specifically. Have you learned about it in school? A little. They have really fast trains. The fastest, and the best fried chicken in the world. Maya's eyes lit up. Better than grandma's? Diane laughed from the kitchen. Child, nobody's fried chicken is better than mine. I'll reserve judgment until I've tried yours, Min-jun said diplomatically. But I promise, Korean fried chicken is worth experiencing. They sat down to lunch. Diane's fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, and cornbread. Min-jun approached the meal with the same serious attention he gave everything, complimenting each dish honestly, asking about recipes, sharing stories of his wife's attempts to master American Southern cooking. She never got the cornbread right, he said with a smile. Too dry. But she kept trying. Said any cuisine worth eating was worth learning to cook. Smart woman, Diane said approvingly. After lunch, Maya dragged Min-jun to her room to show him her space books and posters. Keisha followed at a distance, watching this dangerous man sit cross-legged on her daughter's floor, listening with genuine interest as a 6-year-old explained the difference between terrestrial and gas giant planets. And Mars is where we'll go first, Maya said. Because it's closest and has the most potential for bases. Have you thought about the engineering challenges? Min-jun asked seriously. Building structures that can withstand Mars's atmosphere? I'm going to study that. When I'm older. I'm going to be an engineer and an astronaut. That's ambitious. I like it. My wife always said people who aim for the stars usually land somewhere amazing, even if it's not quite where they planned. Your wife was smart, Maya said, echoing her grandmother. She was. Very smart. She would have liked you. Keisha felt her throat tighten. Watching Min-jun with her daughter, patient, engaged, treating her like a person worth listening to, showed her a side of him she'd only glimpsed. He would have been a good father. Maybe still could be, in his own complicated way. When he left that evening, Maya hugged him goodbye, a spontaneous gesture that made Min-jun freeze for just a moment before carefully returning the embrace. He's nice, Maya announced after Min-jun was gone. Is he going to be your boyfriend? Maybe, Keisha admitted. Would that be okay with you? Maya considered seriously. He listened to me. And he didn't talk to me like I'm a baby. I like that. Me too, sweetheart. Later that night, after Maya was asleep, Keisha called Min-jun. Your daughter is remarkable, he said before she could speak. She liked you. I liked her. She's brilliant and curious and completely herself. You're raising her well. Thank you. That means a lot, coming from you. Keisha paused. My mother wants to know your intentions. Honorable ones. Complicated by my circumstances, but honorable. That's what I told her. She's reserving judgment. Smart woman. I'd be suspicious of me too. He was quiet for a moment. Keisha, I need to go back to Seoul tomorrow. Business that can't be delayed. But I'll be back in 3 weeks. And maybe next time I could stay longer. Get to know Atlanta. Get to know your life here. I'd like that. And maybe, eventually you could come back to Seoul. See it as a visitor, not a victim. Let me show you the parts of my city I love, not just the dark alleys where people die. Min-jun, are we really doing this? Building something across oceans and worlds? Yes, if you're willing. I know it's not traditional or easy or probably even smart. But I'm 46 years old and I've never wanted something this much. Someone this much. Keisha felt her heart expand. Then we're doing this. Together. However complicated it gets. Together, he agreed. Through all the complications. The next 6 months were a study in the impossible made possible. Min-jun flew to Atlanta once a month, sometimes for just a weekend, sometimes for a full week. He met Keisha's friends, carefully vetted by Marcus and his security team first, though Keisha's friends never knew. He attended one of Maya's school events, sitting in the back row like any other parent, and clapped when she gave her presentation on Mars exploration. Keisha flew to Seoul once for a week in February. Min-jun showed her his city as promised. The palaces and temples, the street food markets, the art galleries his wife had loved. He also showed her the Baek Dupa headquarters, a nondescript building in Gangnam that housed the empire's administrative heart. This is who I am, he said, standing in his office overlooking Seoul's nighttime glow. The man who eats barbecue on your beltline, and the man who controls this empire. Both are real. Both are me. I know. Keisha moved to stand beside him. And I'm choosing to love both. It was the first time either of them had used the word, love. Min-jun turned to her, his eyes wide. You love me? I think I have since you held that water glass to my lips in your safe house. Maybe before that, in the alley when I saw you refusing to beg even with a gun to your head. You're complicated and dangerous and sometimes terrifying. But you're also honorable and protective and capable of incredible gentleness. So yes, I love you. He kissed her then, and it was different from their first kiss in Atlanta. This one was a promise, a commitment, a recognition that they were building something permanent across impossible distances. When Keisha returned to Atlanta, Maya noticed the change immediately. You're happy, her daughter said, studying her mother's face. Like really, really happy. I am. Because of Min-jun? Yeah, baby. Because of Min-jun. Is he going to be my stepdad? The question stopped Keisha cold. They hadn't talked about marriage, about permanent arrangements, about what it would mean to officially merge their worlds. Would you want him to be? Maya considered with her characteristic seriousness. He's nice to me. And he makes you smile. And he knows a lot about space. So, yeah. I think so. That night, Keisha called Min-jun. Maya asked if you were going to be her stepdad. Silence on the other end. Then, what did you say? I asked if she'd want that. She said yes. More silence. Keisha, I can't give you a traditional marriage. I can't give you a husband who comes home every night, who attends every school event, who's there for every moment. My life is in Seoul. The Baek Dupa requires my presence, my attention. I can visit, I can protect you from a distance, I can love you with everything I have. But I can't be ordinary. I know that. I've always known that. Keisha took a breath. But maybe we don't need ordinary. Maybe we need extraordinary. Maybe we build something new. A marriage across oceans, a family that doesn't fit the mold but works anyway. Lots of video calls, monthly visits, summers where Maya and I come to Seoul. Complicated, messy, but real. You do that? Accept that kind of marriage. For you? For us? Yes. Because I love you. And because I think we can make it work. If we're both committed to trying. She heard the break in his voice. I'm committing. Right now. To you, to Maya, to building this impossible thing together. Then ask me. Ask you? Min-jun Park, are you going to marry me or not? He laughed, that same warm, genuine laugh she'd first heard through the phone. Keisha Williams, will you marry me? Despite the distance, despite the danger, despite my terrible complicated life. Yes. Absolutely yes. They got married 3 months later in May in Atlanta. Min-jun flew in with 20 of his people, officially listed as wedding guests, actually security ensuring the event went smoothly. Keisha invited her friends, her co-workers, her extended family. And everyone mingled, unaware that half the guests were members of a Korean Mafia organization. Maya was the flower girl, wearing a purple dress that matched the wedding colors. She took her job seriously, scattering petals with precise attention to coverage. Diane walked Keisha down the aisle, whispering, "You sure about this, baby?" More sure than I've ever been about anything except having Maya. The ceremony was a blend of Korean and American traditions. They bowed to Diane in respect, acknowledging her as the family matriarch. They exchanged rings and vows in English and Korean. They shared tea in the traditional style and cut a cake that was decidedly American. When Min-jun kissed his bride, Marcus and his security team clapped along with everyone else, and for that moment the two worlds were truly one. The reception was held at a historic mansion in Buckhead, security discreetly positioned at every entrance. Keisha danced with her new husband, with her daughter, with her mother. She watched Min-jun be swept into conversation with her pharmaceutical colleagues, explaining with perfect diplomacy that he was in business management in Seoul. Late in the evening she found him standing alone on the mansion's balcony, looking out at Atlanta's lights. "Hiding from your own wedding?" she teased. "Taking it in. This moment. This impossible, beautiful moment." He pulled her close. "I never thought I'd have this again. A wife. A family. Something worth protecting that wasn't an empire. You have it now. All of it. Me, Maya, even my mother, who I think is starting to approve of you." "Only starting?" She's cautious. "But she sees how you treat us. How you make us feel safe and loved. That goes a long way." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city. Then Min-jun said quietly, "I want to tell you something. About the future." Keisha's heart skipped. "Okay. I've been thinking about succession planning. For the Baek Dupa. I'm 47 now. In our world, leaders either die in office or they retire while they're still strong enough to control the transition. I'm planning for the latter." "You're leaving?" "The organization. In 5 years. Maybe less. I'm training my successor, my nephew, young but brilliant. I'll maintain advisory role, but day-to-day control will pass to him." Min-jun turned to face her fully. "And when that happens, I want to move here. To Atlanta. Be a real husband. A real father to Maya. Maybe have more children if you want. Build a life that's ordinary and beautiful and safe." Keisha felt tears streaming down her face. "You do that? Leave everything?" "I do it for this. For you. For the family we're building. My wife wanted me to walk away from the empire. I couldn't do it for her. But I can do it for you and Maya. I can choose this life over that one. 5 years is a long time. But we'll have them together. Building towards something permanent. And then." He smiled. "Then I'll be just a man. Finally. Like I promised in that first conversation." Keisha kissed him, tasting salt from her tears and champagne from the toasts. "I love you. So much. I love you too. My wife. My family. My choice." Maya Williams Park stood on the balcony of the Seoul apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below. She was 8 now, spending her summer vacation in Korea with her mother and stepfather, and she'd grown comfortable navigating both worlds. "Maya." Min-jun called from inside, using the Korean affectionate suffix he'd taught her. "Come see this." She ran inside to find him at his computer, pulling up a news article. It showed a new Mars rover launching and Maya's eyes went wide. "That's the one with the advanced drill system. I thought you'd want to watch. The launch is streaming live." They settled on the couch together, Min-jun's arm around her shoulders, and watched humanity reach for Mars. Around them, the apartment was full of life. Keisha's pharmaceutical research papers spread on the dining table, Maya's space book stacked by her bedroom door, framed photos of their blended family on every wall. In 3 years, Min-jun would retire from the Baek Dupa. They'd move permanently to Atlanta, into the house with the yard and swing set that Keisha had showed Maya so long ago. He'd become a consultant, using his business skills legitimately. They'd have dinner together every night. He'd attend every one of Maya's school events. But for now they had this. Summers in Seoul, school years in Atlanta, video calls bridging the distance, security teams ensuring their safety, and love that had survived bullets and betrayal to become something solid and real. "Mommy says we might have a little brother or sister next year," Maya said casually, eyes still on the rocket launch. Min-jun blinked. "She told you that?" She said maybe. "But it's a happy maybe." Maya looked up at him. "Would you want that? Another kid?" Min-jun thought about the daughter his first wife had wanted, about the family he'd thought was lost forever, about the little girl sitting beside him now who called him dad in both English and Korean. "I would want that very much." "Good. Because I think I'd be a good big sister. I could teach them about space." "You'd be an excellent big sister." The rocket launched, carrying instruments that would search for signs of ancient life on Mars. And in a Seoul apartment, a blended family watched together, former Mafia boss, pharmaceutical executive and aspiring astronaut, their impossible love story having survived every obstacle to become simply a life well lived. Outside, Marcus and his team maintained their watch, protecting the people Min-jun loved. But inside, for this moment, they were just a family. Just ordinary. Just perfect,